Oh my gosh. Hi, guys. Today's guest is someone who is helping shape the future of leadership in an AI enabled world. And oh, are we hearing about AI lately? Well, making sure we don't lose the human side of it in the process, which is something we all need to focus on. Siri Swahari is the vice president at CGI, where she leads the infrastructure and operations sector of US global technology operations. Woo! Say that 10 times fast. And she helps organizations navigate enterprise transformation through a people centered lens, bringing together AI, automation, operational excellence, and leadership to create meaningful business impact. But beyond the technology itself, Siri's work is deeply rooted in something bigger: trust, connection, helping people move through change with clarity and confidence. And something I'm very excited to talk about, and I can't wait to get to. She's also the founder of Women Executives Circle. Say that 10 times fast, which is also the short name for it is WEC, WEC, Women Executives Circle, a community designed to connect and elevate senior women leaders through honest conversations, shared access, and collective momentum. And I am so excited to talk about this. Obviously, a place of my own heart. What I love most about Siri is that she brings both strategic brilliance and real humanity into the way she leads. Siri, I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carrie. I am excited to be here, and it's so rare to find someone who thinks like you. So this is double bonanza for me.
For the listeners, Siri and I were talking. So Siri started WeSee, and I became a member of WeSee, and absolutely love it and adore her. And what we figured out is we're actually soul sisters. We must have been separated at birth. We are seriously cut from the same cloth. We have the same passions about lifting and building women, connecting women, supporting women. So I'm really, really excited to get into all of that. But before we do that, I always start with this question because I want us to get to know you better. So before we get into like the leadership, the we see and all that you've built, I love to start here. Who were you growing up and what was younger Siri like?
You're making me go down the memory lane, huh? I love that question. And who was Siri? What did I want to become? Believe it or not, I and my younger brother, we both had one passion, one vision, one career in mind when we were both kids. We both wanted to be the train drivers.
I think every kid wanted to be a train driver, just like the hat and the outfit and just like.
It's a little bit different. It's not that fancy smancy because I grew up in India and the railway system is a little bit different there. But every year we used to travel to my grandparents' home or my uncle's home. And we used to stand on that platform and we see the train zip by so fast, steered by a single person, and it had like 40 to 50 carriages behind it, everyone waiting for the train to show up. And we were in elementary school, so I have to clarify that. But oh my gosh, I and my brother, we wanted to go early to see as many trains we can watch zip by before we could catch ours. And another amazing thing is railway platforms or stations are where we used to find comics or books in India. So the libraries, the bookstores were not as rampant as it is right now. Of course, nowadays nobody even reads books. Everything is on a Kindle or iPad. If any are even reading, the short form videos have sincerely broken.
We have terrible
the,
attention span these days. It's very bad.
yeah. And when you read, you are in your own imagination. The world you create is so different from what you watch. Even when a book is converted into a movie, what you envision in your mind when you're reading that book is so different from watching it in action, played by actors and roles and so on. So that used to be another amazing, wonderful thing for us to be able to go to a train station so that we can get access to books which are not your school books.
Right?
Now, I mean, generation, my kids, I keep telling them how lucky they are to have access to plethora of books if they want to. But I was a big time book nerd. I loved reading. I used to devote myself, spend hours and hours and hours. I mean, everywhere you see, when I was a kid, my I used to have a nickname called bookworm, library bookworm, because library is where the school library only had a limited collection. We had this mandatory rule that every kid should read a book, at least one book in a month. And there were so many in my class who hated doing that. But I used to raise hands. We were only allowed to take one book per person. So I used to have them, pick this book for me, pick this book for me.
You're trading books. They're worried about kids trading drugs or something terrible. You're like, I'm trading books. I'm trading
But
books.
it is
I'm getting.
hustle, right? Hustle culture. I didn't realize because they need to owe a summary. Every kid who picks a book owes a summary at the end of the month to showcase that they learned or read that book. So I used to give them the summary. They used
I
to pick the book
mean,
I want.
you were a businesswoman even then. You're trading books and hey, I'll write your summary if you let me have this book.
Which I did not know, which I did not know. Man, I mean, my love for books is totally different altogether. Sometimes I feel bad that I don't have really enough time nowadays to sit down and in leisure and complete a book. And I had this problem that if I start a book, I had to end it. I could not go to sleep. Even if there was a finals the next day, if I opened a book, I need to finish it because as silly as it may sound, if not here, where will I share? It's because it's not that serious
It's not that
podcast.
serious.
I'm sharing this. Sometimes I feel like when I'm reading a book, if I have to close it for going out, for sleep, for eating food or whatever, I used to feel like the protagonist, either the hero or heroine, or in the book, in the story, is hanging by a cliff, and they're waiting for me to come and rescue them, finish the story,
Right,
and
like I have to read the last page. What if he is he gonna fall? What's happening?
but that's how it was. I mean, now it's totally not serious.
Well, if I didn't think we were cut from the same cloth before, I definitely do now. Now, I wasn't a bookworm in the same sense. However, I was obsessed with a book when I was a kid called Boxcar Children, and it was about these kids that lived in a train. They found an abandoned train and they went out there and lived in there and they would find cups and they would, go into the so we definitely now I know it's official. We are absolutely twins separated at birth. I mean, I tell you, who knew it would start with trains? I never knew. Um, you
Yeah, I
described
don't think I will start with trains either, but that's what I love about this conversations. You don't know what each question might spur in the memory lane. So thanks for making me relive that wonderful memory.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, you describe yourself as a nerd at heart, and you've clearly always been deeply curious, which I think is the sure sign of the smartest people in the room is always whoever is the most curious, in my opinion, who's asking the most questions. So what were you drawn to growing up? And when do you realize you had leadership instincts out past the train?
Yeah. So to be honest, I never realized those were leadership instincts. I never put that label on them, or maybe I was too young to even realize that it is a leadership quality. Now I know. But we had summer holidays. Almost every summer holiday, I grew up in India. And in India, there are there are three categories, like everywhere, of course. The low income group, the middle income group, and high income group. And the middle income group and high income group, they prioritize studies big time. Low income group, they don't really have that luxury. The parents, there are some public schools out there, the government schools out there, but the quality of education is not at par. Maybe things changed, hopefully. I haven't visited in recent years, but that used to be a drawback, and what ended up being is without education, those kids still ended up going into careers that does not pay well, that does not require education. Anyhow, I don't claim to understand or to have understood all that when I was young. But what I did was those summer holidays, we used to be stuck home, stuck indoors, we couldn't travel as much because both my parents were working. I used to take care of all the children on the street, kids, parents who worked in, our homes as maids, as sweepers. It doesn't matter. There used to be a small grocery store, their parents used to run that, their kids used to hang around, just milling around, not doing nothing. And That used to be my passion project, bringing them all together, teaching alphabet, teaching numbers, doing end of summer exams, convincing my mom to buy something to give because, as a gift to motivate. And for me at the time, it was all fun. I never thought I was being a leader. I enjoyed teaching, and I really loved seeing those kids whenever someone could recite the alphabet or spell something right, and also teaching English because low income group schools, they all used to follow the mother tongue, which is great. But you really don't, you are limiting the growth factor if you're just sticking to your regional language. You need to expand your scope. So I used to love teaching them English. Won't claim my English is really great, but I taught what I knew, and that is something that now I look back. That's when I realized, okay, nobody taught me that.
Right.
I had fun doing that, and I was doing that. And the other day, I was sharing with Erica the similar story. I was a class monitor, and I studied in a Catholic school where everything is super strict. Obviously, when it
Mm-hmm.
is Catholic high school run by nuns,
Mm-hmm.
you know the drill, the uniforms, the cadence, the quietness in the house, and everything. It was like tick-toe silence, but the focus was big on studies. So my parents were lucky to find enrollment for me in that.
Yeah.
And as a class leader, there was once a mistake where we were big. My school was big on school uniforms. The next day would say holiday. However, they asked us to come for a 1 hour review just before the finals or something. I and the class monitor from the other section, we were going down to meet the principal and ask what is the dress code. Should we come in the school uniform, or is it okay because it was it was a holiday?
Right.
We
You're
could
like, we're just doing a little thing here. It's going to be short and then it's going to be the holiday fun.
yeah, and it's just for an hour. But anyhow, there was some communication gap. My other class monitor said, "Oh, she got information that they can wear whatever they want." So that's what I conveyed to my team. Big mistake.
Oh.
Big mistake.
Breaking the
Next,
rules.
next day, I showed up in uniform because that's what your choice, right? And I showed up, but more than 50% of my class took advantage of not having to wear a uniform. They all came dressed up in all colors and everything, which is like extremely rare thing to see in a Catholic school. And boy, oh boy, our principal, she was so mad. Mrs. Jones. I love her to death. She is an amazing leader. Anyhow, she was so mad, even though it was next day finals for us. She said everyone, all 60 kids in the class, should write a apology 100 times saying, I will follow the dress code.
My goodness.
Totally. And that day, I was so upset with myself that I wasn't being due diligent and, making sure that I passed the right information. For me, I think that was 15 or so, my heart was throbbing like crazy. Going into a principal's office is such a sacred thing, such a rare thing. I still remember walking that pathway, stepping into her office, super scary.
Scary. It's very scary as a kid.
I could hear my heart thumping. But I told her, Mrs. Jones, I gave that wrong information. It is okay. I will follow the punishment, but for all the 60 kids, I will do it 60 times 100. I will take the punishment. Again, I did not know it was a leadership quality then. For me, it is owning up, taking
Right.
responsibility. I conveyed the end message. And I received wrong information, but that doesn't matter. I should have been more diligent. And she was so nice. I mean, I'm glad I dared to go and step in that office and say that. She was so nice. She pardoned all of us. She said, it's okay. This is a first time thing. You don't have to do that. And, we were all relieved. But she was the one who recognized that I had that leadership potential. She was the one who called my parents and said, Siri should not be following an engineering path or a medicine path because believe me, growing up in India, if you want growth, those were the only two parallel tracks you can take. There was nothing else if you want to be successful. She said she needs to go into administration, and there is a really high visibility uh, path called IAS. She wanted me to do that, but Of course, I personally don't like that, so I didn't choose that, but it felt good. It was eye-opening for
Yeah.
me to realize Mrs. Jones thought so about me. And what I did is a leadership quality. And it was really nice to see my dad coming so happy and he was glowing. Oh my
Oh my
God.
gosh, I'm sure your parents were so proud. They're like, "Oh my goodness."
So I don't have I don't know what instilled. It could be my family. My grandma was a big time badass. She did not conform to the norms of the society at that time, where she was recently widowed with two kids, my mom being just 2 months old, out of the blue. But she didn't let society dictate how she raises her kids, how successful they can be. She aced so many exams, got a job, which was a rare thing, remember, at that time, when it's almost like child marriages. She made sure she was reliant on her own, taking care of her kids and raising them to be to grow and excel in their respective careers. My mom did awesome. She retired as a naval officer, and so did my uncle. But I think we absorb those things.
Mhm. Oh,
I
oh,
don't
sure. Oh, for
recall my
sure.
grandma ever sitting me down and showing or sharing this is leadership. Or
Right,
this is
you're watching them in action. I mean, you're mother hen of the neighborhood kids, you're the boss of the teacher of the neighborhood kids, then you're the leader in the classroom. I mean, half the class is coming in costume because you said you don't have to wear your uniform. So, I love this so much, and it's so interesting how it just was innately a part of who you are and were, and, you 1,000,000%, I think, from watching your grandmother and your mother take on those roles and be, f not restricting of themselves in going into those roles. I think, we as women lead by example often, people in general, but specifically women. When you see it as a young girl, you see your grandmother doing this when it's maybe not what you're supposed to be doing, or maybe it's like, "Ooh, wow, that's really edgy." It's like, you see this as a young girl and you're like, "Oh my gosh," like, it makes it okay, it makes it doable, it makes it something that is now a possibility for you to do, which is so cool. Um, you oversee massive global operations and high stakes enterprise environments. That's just part of your everyday. So what have you learned about leadership when the scale, the pressure, and the complexity are that high at that level?
it doesn't matter. Babe, baby to medium to large or extra large. No matter where you are growing, what you are scaling, what new technology comes. I mean, one point of time it was all data centers, cloud, big data, now AI wave. And these waves keep coming and going. The core aspect, tying everything, determining the success of how you scale, is always the people that make up that foundation, that support that. So as long as they understand and they are vested and they believe that we are on the right track, they have that ecosystem where they have this comfort level to speak up. The trust is so integral. I mean, that is something that can never be discounted. Trust, and without compromising on core values, but like being respectful. Because the larger you grow, the what I realized is I was very meticulous. When I was just managing one team, I knew each and everything, every member, what they are doing, what project they are on, what is the problem, and all. But as I grow, as the number of people that I am responsible for, as they keep growing, what I realized is I really cannot
Yes.
manage that. It is not humanly possible. But as long as the North Star, as long as the core values, as long as the vision is same for each and every one, it doesn't matter. We'll still be successful. They need to believe in that. They
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
understand that.
I think it's really important, that the first thing you said, we're thinking about, oh, these huge, large corporations and these large organizations, and you automatically think of other things. But I love that you said the people first, and paying attention to that piece because I think it's really easy to do it, like you said, when it's a small team. When it's a small company, a small team, it's really easy to pay attention to, everybody's needs and you can tell when somebody's off or if they need some extra room. But when it gets to become a very large corporation, it's very difficult to do that. It's very difficult to manage in the same way. So I love that you're saying out loud, it's still just as important, even though it's difficult, even though it becomes much more difficult when it's a much larger organization, it's still extremely important.
It is for sure. And I think that is going to stay no matter what. No
Yeah.
matter technology grows or where we end up 2 decades from now.
Yeah, and it is changing so fast, and I think it scares the hell out of so many people. But I think for a lot of us that are excited about it, it's more about how can we make everybody more efficient and then get the really good stuff out of people. What is the real human piece of it that we can then give more time to and highlight and lift up while the AI is doing all the efficiency pieces. So just in with that thought of thinking about the people, why do you think so many organizations get that wrong when they go through change? And the second part to that question, what happens when companies only focus on tech and forget about the people?
Oh, yeah. The first one, the one universal thing that is true, that has been true since BCs, centuries, decades, in the past, in the present, and in the future. The universal factor, the statement that remains true is change is hard.
It is.
People resist change.
And it's always happening. It's never gonna stop.
There
It's
is
just
one
gonna
thing
keep
that
going.
does, yeah, that is one thing that does not stop is change. There are going to be so many things. And, I can speak from a large corporation perspective. CGI is a company that has been established for 50 years. And it has great culture, great culture value and everything. But sometimes the larger the corporation it is, the stringent the processes become. And it's just not CGI. I worked at several giants in the telecom industry, in the financial industry, and whatnot. And one universal thing I see is sometimes a process that is established, it seems to become the default standard. People don't question, can it be more efficient? Who knows? 2 years later, there might be new tools, new technologies, new processes, new mindset. It doesn't even have to be anything technical per se, anything infrastructure per se. Maybe the mindset. You know, remember, I don't know if you recall, waterfall tech methodology used to be the big thing. Then came agile. So that is a big process change from how things used to work versus the thing how the new world dictates for efficiencies. And I don't know if you managed any of such projects when in your career, but that used to be a big change that we had to get the buy-in. We had to get anyone can go and pass the mandate and say we can become let's be agile. Does that deliver value? No. It will only if your members understand the value behind it and are invested in it. And that is the job of the leaders to ensure we level set the expectations. We cannot sugarcoat everything. That's another big thing that I keep seeing happening. Oh, AI is going to be great. AI is going to solve all the problems. AI is going to simplify things.
Right, meanwhile, everybody's terrified.
Big fat lie, big fat lie. It is going to be great if you optimize it to be great. It is going to be great if the underlying data foundation, the provenance is great, if you built it with proper guardrails, if you ensure human in the loop. Those things are so integral for it to be successful. But if you are in the mindset, and I will take AI again as an example because that is the big thing going on right now. I'm pretty sure it's just not me, but most of us who might be stepping into AI or working with AI must have seen both extremes. There are so many folks who are adopting or embracing AI or thinking AI will solve world hunger. AI is the biggest epiphany in the world. And then there are some who don't even want to touch it. And I
Hmm.
see various kinds of reasonings. Some think it is cheating. Some think it will take their job away. Some think it is wrong information. I mean, whatever it is, the level of distrust is the other extreme.
Hmm.
What we need is that moderation. That moderation is key. And sometimes you need moderation through literacy, through coaching, through guiding. And that is the job of the leaders. Last 4 5 years, leaders took on double responsibilities. It's just not leading teams, but also leading teams in the world of AI,
Hmm.
which it is ex-
Well,
exciting.
I think right now it is because of the massive shift of this swift incoming of AI. I think it is really easy for companies to get distracted by the technology and forget about the people. And then the people, like I said, they're terrified and they're going, "Oh my God, am I going to lose my job? Am I going to, you know, they have so many questions. They like you said, there's a mixture of people that don't even want to touch it. There's a mixture of people that are terrified it's going to take their jobs. And then there's people that are like all in and they want to do everything on it. So I think it's an easy thing for companies to get swept up in the excitement, the momentum of this AI and all of this technology in general. But when they do forget about people, I mean, obviously, and from my opinion, I really think it's, it's a huge failure because then people they aren't loyal to you. They aren't in no way do they feel taken care of. So you have the higher risk, you run the higher risk of losing people and then having to retrain and then it's very expensive. But what do you see when companies put the tech first and forget the people? Is there a way for them to avoid that? Or are there recommendations you have to keep them remembering the people?
Is there a way? Of course there is. Who are we kidding? That is the primary way. But remember, every company is a business. And so I do not want to quote this news or quote these sources because I haven't sat down and validated or verified it. But there were some news that I usually listen to on my way to work is someone was saying that many of the companies are reducing workforce, citing AI, but that is more of an optics. That is more of a because from an optics perspective, from a shareholder perspective, reducing workforce because we become more efficient with AI sounds great and in the path of future rather than accepting that we overhired, especially during the COVID era. Do you remember
Mhm.
how rampant the hiring was?
Mhm.
Uh, the estimations were wrong. Too many people were hired for not delivering the values, and obviously the world is catching up. And of course, if I am a business owner, I probably would do the same thing. If I need to let go of someone, I would have said, "Oh, we are becoming more efficient with AI," even though.
Mhm.
But I'm not going to endorse that statement because I was not a journalist who did the deep dive and who announced that. But that is so often that I'm hearing that there has to be some truth in that. Having said that, there are also organizations who are truly getting efficient. But I also see the focus these days. Sometimes people saying, "Oh my God, jobs are being eliminated." I would say they're not eliminated, they are getting morphed into something else.
Right, they're changing, they're shifting, like, it's not
Yeah.
necessarily saying, "Hey, this job A is getting replaced by AI, and we don't need it anymore." It's that job A is now changing and morphing, as you said, into job B, and yes, there is AI behind it, but what you did before or what you knew as your job before is now different,
It's not
looks
different.
different.
And you need to train for that. You need to learn for that. You can't go with your old skills and say, "I want to do the job B."
Mhm.
If companies do not prioritize people and start focusing on removing A and not coaching or training folks working on job A to go progress into job B, then there is definitely going to be financial impact on their numbers. The
Mhm.
revenue, the margins, they all are going to take a hit. And sometimes it feels like circular in nature, these kind of decisions. But like history, these
Mhm.
lessons learned, these are really wonderful masters. As long as they focus on that and prioritize people, technology will always win. If they only focus on technology, There's no, sorry, go ahead. I see you
Right.
have.
Well, no, I was gonna say, I was gonna say, technology can feel the AI, this whole, let's just wrap it up into one big bubble. It can feel so overwhelming, but I think you're right as far as, job A morphing into job B, that can be an opportunity to get people energized and excited about, again, like I mentioned earlier, the more human piece, what are they amazing at? What are the skill sets that only they can bring to the table? So now as this morph happens, I think that's a good time for a company to get people energized as opposed to overwhelmed. Like how do you direct them with that?
Yeah. And also new skills. I don't know if you saw that women, sorry, I keep getting women all the time. World Economic Forum, the 2030 jobs report. If you saw what the trend is, basic coding that can be automated, yes, you might not have entry level jobs for that, but you still need to understand coding to ensure that the output generated by an AI tool can pass the quality check. And sometimes I am worried for the future, for the new generation that would be getting into the workforce. If we don't train them in basics, because AI can do some of the stuff, then we are going to miss the core foundations that are needed for them to grow. You can't you can't go to the 10th floor without stepping on the first floor and second floor and third floor. We are not like Spider-Man or someone like we can jump and go to the 10th floor. I wish we can. I am a Marvel nerd, so I wish I can have like and then go wherever I want or cape and fly whenever I want. Like, alphabets. You need to learn the alphabets to understand the words, basics.
Yeah, and you speak about responsibility in AI and the need for governance and the need for guardrails. So what do you wish more people understood? And now obviously you just said, you have to go on the first floor, the second floor, the third floor to get to the 10th. But what do you wish more people understood about the responsibility side of AI and not just this fun, exciting opportunity side?
Responsibility is so crucial because I keep telling that AI is nothing but a magnifier. Whatever tools or technology that you are using to take care or leverage AI, if it is not used responsibly, there is a big chance for it to misfire. I mean, there is, I shouldn't even say there is a big chance. I should say there is a guaranteed chance for it to backfire. And all you need to do is open LinkedIn or look at a technology podcast. Even you see as many posts are there about the greatness or what is achieved using agentic AI. There are also equal number of posts which highlights, okay, the model drifting using the same prompt without correcting, how the image changes or how the message changes, how it gets morphed. Because the way AI operates, it's not a human. It is all based on a vector database. It tries to group similarly grouped words, phrases, and it is amazingly fast. But the discernment is still owned by people. I don't know when AGI comes. We should have this conversation again when AGI comes and
Yeah.
see if I need to change or correct my statements. But at this moment, responsible AI with guardrails, with human in the loop, ensuring quality data and governance in place are the only way you can be successful adopting AI.
Yeah, I think that's something we'll see how it shakes out. I mean, everything is moving so fast and things change so fast. I mean, even when you look at AI from right now to a year ago, it's dramatically different. So I think you're right. We just have to keep the guardrails in. We have to keep the we can't play it loose and fast, as they say, because it really it's amazing, I think so many people just, assume it's gonna give them correct information, and sometimes it's not spitting out correct information, and in fact, I made a joke about it the other day, it's like, "Oh, yeah, it's like AI, it's just telling you all the things you wanna hear." It's like agreeing with everything you say, even if you say the sky is orange or purple or whatever color, and it's like, "No, no." It's like, "Yeah, you're so smart. Yes, it is."
Yes, that's how
So
the algorithm is trained. It's also, I think, basic human nature. I mean, starting with a toddler. When they start making sense of the world. When you say no, when there is friction, or when you advise, obviously the human nature it deals with resistance. In order to improve AI usage, and whenever they were building it, they made it like a almost like a yes machine, and that's where the disconnect is. And you can always counter that, using the personas, using the profiles, using good prompt engineering techniques. But remember, the day-to-day usage by common folks, they may not be exposed to how to correct that, how to make it act like it. I love it when I set my AI tool to act as devil's advocate, because it makes me look at things that I miss. We are
Yes.
sometimes at this myopic view. We need someone on the opposite side to widen our scope and show what is needed.
I think it's the best, back end secret for AI, although it shouldn't be a secret, everyone should know, like, if you're writing in the devil's advocate piece into the back end of the AI, like, "Hey, every time I put something in, I want you to challenge this, I want you to play devil's advocate." It really is surprising the difference in answers it gives you, and, you may not, in fact, be the world's smartest woman anymore, once it gives you these little snippets of devil's advocate. It's hysterical because it's like, so it's placating us, it's coddling us, like, in our answers. But if you put that in, then you start to really challenge and look at things from multiple points of view, which I absolutely love. I'm exactly like you and having deep curiosity. And a lot of times I like to just, and I know it drives people crazy sometimes, but I like to see it from all the different angles so I can really understand it. And I think that's what that little trick does. But again, you're deeply curious about people and ideas and the world. Do you think, I mean, I have my opinion on this answer, but do you think curiosity is actually an underrated leadership skill?
I don't know about that. That's a good question. Sometimes, my curiosity puts me in trouble, but there is that saying for a purpose, right? Curiosity kill the cat,
Yes.
or something like that.
Don't worry,
But
cats have 9 lives.
yeah. But all I can say is, for me, being curious is what helped me learn more. Personally, I would say that helped me grow, that helped me expand my views, and that helped me become a better leader. Uh, to be able to understand others' perspective and act would 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 make a significant difference to the person that you are interacting with and to the whole environment. I
Yeah, I really feel like, that internal curiosity, like I said earlier, like, some of the most impressive, smartest people I've ever been in vicinity with or seen or, been talking to, they're always the most curious. They're never afraid to ask the question. They're always trying to learn more about whatever it is the topic is. And I think sometimes, especially in leadership roles, people can not ask the question because they don't, quote unquote, want to seem dumb or seem like they don't know something. They want to be the smartest person in the room. But the minute that you're doing that is the minute that you're not. And I think it does people a disservice. So I find curiosity to be just an awesome quality. And I try to remember that when I am feeling uncomfortable asking a question or maybe in a room of colleagues that I am having imposter syndrome in, or you know I try to remember that in my mind. The most impressive people I've ever known or spoken with were always the ones that still ask the questions, even if it was like, oh my gosh, everybody knows that. Sometimes that's not the case. And sometimes those basic questions unleash so much more information. And it's like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have asked that question. Like, what the heck?
I want to add to what you said, in addition to curiosity, and the other thing that I would say is a good leadership quality is to ensure you are not the smartest person in the room.
Yes, absolutely.
You need to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, and also create that psychological safety to ask questions. I always preface and say there are no dumb questions.
Yes.
And I also love to lead by example. I sometimes ask those questions, and you won't believe, so many times when I ask a question, I keep getting pings, DMs. Oh my God, thank you, Siri. I was thinking that.
They
Can you
pick her asking.
do that? Yeah,
It's exactly the point. Like,
yeah,
people are afraid.
yeah. And after I saw those DMs come more often, I started asking more questions. Sometimes, even though I get it, I wanted clarity around it. And I am the first person to raise my hand. I never, never, never preface saying this might be a dumb question. Believe me,
Absolutely.
we all did. I did too in the past. But again, I realize that is also where we are belittling ourselves to ask.
Exactly.
Right? I stopped doing that. It was a tough habit to break. I no longer say I have it. This might be a dumb question, but I have this. Well,
Well,
okay, well, I wanted to clarity on this. I wanted to know about this.
and I think also as leaders, putting this out there, the minute you say that, then immediately the people you're leading are going, "Oh my gosh, I had that same question, and now she said that was a dumb question. Oh my gosh!" Like, now there's all these other things. When if you just eliminate that totally, and you're just unafraid to ask whatever question it is, then it really drops some of those defense walls of people that are like really trying to posture or are really nervous about being in the room, or when they are very much should be in the room, right? And so I think it does a disservice as a leader when you start that way. So I love that you saw that and acknowledged that and made that change, and I think it's really, really important. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you love this conversation as much as I did. And we're not done yet. This continues in part 2, so make sure you come back and join us there. That's a wrap on today's episode of Carrie, It's Not That Serious. If this conversation resonated, subscribe and share it with a whip, a woman in power in your life. You can find more conversations, more community, and all the fun INTS merch you love at itsnotthatserious.com. We're building something meaningful here, and I'm so glad you're a part of it. Until next time, remember, it's not that serious.